All right, so looks like we have everybody connected, several people joining us. We'll go ahead and get started. First of all, welcome everyone and thank you for joining us for our second installment of our Spark and Share series, where we discuss the positive impact of effective parent and family engagement practices on student achievement. I'm Colleen Polak, the CEO of Homeworks, and here at Homeworks, we partner families and teachers for student success. And we do this by supporting schools and their implementation of evidence-based family engagement practices. And today we are thrilled to have joining us Dr. Paula Knight, the superintendent of Jennings School District. Dr. Knight began her career with the St. Louis Public School District back in 1994 as a classroom teacher. And during her many years at SLPS, she wore several hats, including a principal, associate superintendent, where she became very familiar with Homeworks and SLPS, and rose all the way to the position of chief academic officer. She then assumed the position of the superintendent of Jennings School District in 2021. Dr. Knight has served on numerous boards and commissions focused on improving educational outcomes and excellence in education, and even presented internationally on the American school system and literacy practices. She received her bachelor's in elementary education from St. Louis University and her master's and doctorate in educational leadership from the University of Missouri St. Louis. So quite a resume for Dr. Knight, and we are thrilled to have her as a supporter of Homeworks and here with us today. So welcome, Dr. Knight.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
So just a quick housekeeping is that if you have any questions for Dr. Knight as we're going through our discussion, please feel free to drop that in the chat. And we have a little bit of time at the end where we'll be able to bring those to Dr. Knight and discuss your questions. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. So first off, Dr. Knight, as I shared in the intro, you have been familiar with Homeworks and worked with Homeworks for many, many years, first at St. Louis Public Schools, and then now at the Jennings School District. So when you came to Jennings, what was it that you had seen about Homeworks when you were with SLPS, or just in your interactions that made you excited and such a champion to bring Homeworks to the Jennings School District?
Yeah, so thank you again for having me. Talking about family engagement, particularly with Homeworks, this was easy. This was an easy ask for me. Not one of those superintendents who hangs my hat on a lot of programs, but when I do, I truly stand by it. And so Homeworks, definitely, when we talk about family engagement, that's the core tenet of Homeworks. How do we ensure that we bridge that gap between home school and having that strong connection? So when I was introduced to Homeworks, I want to say maybe 10, 15 years ago. It's been a long time. I was intrigued while at the same time impressed with, going out of our way to meet our families, not just talking about family engagement, not just sending home a packet to say, this is how you can stay connected to the school, but actually going into the homes and inviting us in. And it has been so well regarded, highly regarded, that I said, I need to bring this to Jennings. And it was probably one of the best investments that our school district has made. And when I say investment, not just about the dollar, but investment with time and effort, because that goes a long way. And I just want to say, if I could just take a point of privilege, I see some familiar friends on here. So I just want to just say, I see you. And I'm happy to be here. So thank you again.
Excellent. So you talked about a couple things there. One of them that really stood out to me was how you talk about we're really meeting families where they are and bringing family engagement kind of to the next level. It's more than just sending home a packet. So what are those? Are there more of those kind of traditional methods of family engagement you've seen? And how is it that Homework specifically is changing that dynamic and changing the conversation and really leveling up the playing field when it comes to parent and family engagement?
Yeah, the traditional way is, we ask families to come to a program. come to the school, come to PTO night, come to curriculum night. But we are oftentimes in that traditional way of trying to bridge that gap. We are asking our families to come to us. Homeworks is non-traditional in the sense of we are going to our families. We invite them in, we have our collective dinners, we have our family night, but we actually go into the homes, and that's their anchor for our children, as well as the parents. I mean, their anchor is their home. And, you know, I can go even further and talk about the anchor being in the kitchen, and that's where our families gather. And I've conducted some of those home visits, and you walk through the front door, you know, Dr. Knight, join us here in the kitchen. We're about to sit down and just to chat. And that's where you start to chip away at that proverbial wall of divide between the school and the district, because it lets them know, you know, we are human. And we understand the value and the importance of being at home. And so that's what makes homework so non-traditional, because it definitely levels up the expectation that we have when we're talking about that engagement. And the kids get really excited too, Colleen, when they see their teacher coming into, my teacher's in my kitchen. My teacher is in, you know, because back in the day, I used to think my teacher lived at the school. But to see my teacher in my home, it's almost magic.
Love it. We hear, you know, we conduct a lot of surveys. We talk to a lot of parents and kids and teachers who've touched our program. And it is so, one of my favorite parts is hearing from the kids, like how excited they are that their teacher came to their house. And it's like, oh my gosh, you're real. And you, like you said, you have a life outside of the school building, like, and
Yeah.
you're even coming to my house. We had one student recently whose parents shared with us that after the home visit, she felt like the teacher was no longer talking, talking at her. She was now talking to her and
Sure.
talking with her in the classroom. And so it really can make that difference. So speaking about the kids and the students, you know, which is why we're doing all of this and why the people on this call are interested in hearing about it. Aside from that, just you know, we talk about like building the relationship, but what are those ways that you have seen that having this interactive approach to breaking down those walls that are there and building bridges between school and home has impacted student relationships, achievement, success? What have you seen?
So I will say it works both ways, Colleen. It's not just about the kids looking at the teacher and feeling as if, you know, my teacher is human, or my principal. Let's not forget our building leaders. They are going in. But it also softens the relationship that the teacher has with the family and with the student. And so when the parent said, you know, it feels as if the teacher is not, or the child said, teacher is not talking at me. It also builds that level of trust that the teachers and the schools have with their family, so that when they see the family, it's not because something is wrong. And homeworks just changes that entire dynamic, that relationship. You know, we talk about softening how we talk and how we speak to one another, and our level of engagement. There's something that happens once you step over that threshold into someone's home where the dynamic begins to change. And oftentimes that dynamic is not temporary, it's sustainable. You go into the new school year, that child may be in a different grade and with a different teacher, but they still will look back and see that teacher and remember that hey, you know, Miss Knight was she came to my house last year. And then as the program continues to grow and more teachers are involved and more kids are involved, the relationship between that homeschool connection, it's pretty solid and pretty tight.
Thank you for that. And I want to follow up on you talking about program growth and as more teachers become involved. Is that something that in the schools you've worked with and seen in homeworks you've seen happen in the schools that we've been engaged with
Where teachers
over
are more
time?
involved? Oh, yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. Teachers are more involved. Teachers want to participate. And our building leaders, our administrators, they want to participate because it definitely lets us know that we're all here together. And so this is not just lip service, but we are making the effort. And, we started out small in Jennings, and the intent is for it to continue to grow, where we are getting more teachers involved. And Colleen, you'll be really proud to hear that was getting some emails asking, is our school going to be involved next year? Because
Excellent.
we've heard great things. And the family dinner, that family dinner, Colleen, is a hit. It
Mhm.
is a hit. And so it's just amazing what happens. And like I said, I'm not that superintendent who, believes in a ton of programs, but I do believe in what works and what works for children. Because at the end of the day, that's who we work for. We work for the children.
And so so speaking that with the children, and obviously, the children are living at home and they have their families. What are you hearing from families about their desire to be connected with the school or have more of that school home connection?
What I've heard last year at Fairview Elementary was a thank you. Thank you for this. We had some of our families who English is not their first language, but they still came out. And it makes them feel comfortable because sometimes depends on previous past experiences with schools where families are not comfortable coming back into the four walls of a school building. But this lets them know, we are here. This is indeed a true partnership and not just in name only. And the families appreciate it. The families are, because families have to let us in. And so it just begins to strengthen that dynamic of trust. We talk a lot about relationship building, but it begins to do that. And several of the families came up to me at the end of the school year to say thank you.
That's wonderful. We are very excited to be partnered with Jennings School District and for that opportunity to grow and have more teachers participate and have more families
Wonderful,
receive this opportunity and
wonderful.
be connected. So really excited about that. So with that and talking too still about that opportunity for growth and engaging with more families, pulling back just a little bit, like what is your as a superintendent, like what is your long-term vision or goals that you have for the schools within and for Jennings School District? And how is it that you can see that Homeworks is supporting the district's goals and your goals with the schools?
Long term, I do believe in quality education, quality teaching and learning for our young people, regardless of the zip code, regardless of where children live. All children deserve, that's their civil right to a quality education, but even more so, pushing to higher academic standards. And so those of us on this call who are familiar with the state of Missouri's requirements around being blue ribbon. Blue ribbon is the highest level of achievement that a school can attain. And I do believe that Jennings will have one blue ribbon school. And so how do we do that? Uh, Quality teachers. But at the same time, we cannot do this by ourselves. We need our families involved. We need them to know what's happening in the classroom. Because what we do find is that when it feels as if this is a family dynamic and not just school and home, but it morphs into a family dynamic, then you get the families behind you. They want to be able to say, my child attends a school in Jennings School District, and it's also a blue ribbon school. And so this was a vision that I shared when I first arrived to the school district, because there's no reason why children cannot attain high levels of academics. And so that's my plan. That is my intent. But I can't do it by myself. My teachers can't do it without the families, and administrators can't do it without all of us.
Blue Ribbon Bound. I think I remember hearing that
Yeah,
at one of the
there it
events
is.
we had in Fairview. Was we're Blue
There it is.
Ribbon Bound,
Blue ribbon
and
band.
how Yeah, and how exciting that we get to be a part of that journey and to keep working together, that we're going to be able to do it together.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So you've talked about this a little bit, but we've seen you've been able to come out and attend some of the events that we've held. You've been on home visits before.
Mhm.
Um, what talking specifically on the we talked a lot about the relationship, but about specifically on the academic journey of students. How have you seen or feel like those events or the visits are having an impact on the educational journey that students are experiencing?
The parents know what's happening. They know the questions to ask. They know how they can help their child. That's part of the journey with our teachers as well as our parents. When we start having those levels of engagement where the conversation begins to change, what can I do to help my child better with mathematics, better in reading? They know those questions to ask and they feel comfortable in asking because they've established that relationship with the school and with the teacher. And so I have seen that with a couple of our teachers and a couple of our parents. I've had a parent to call, actually about a month ago, called and asked, what else can I do before school starts? And when you start having those kinds of conversations, you just, like I said, you begin to see that dynamic change and it changes for the good. And it doesn't feel like an us, them, or a push pull when it comes to teaching and learning. Teaching and learning it doesn't just stop in the classroom. It should be an extension of the classroom.
And one of the things we talk about at Homeworks is how we do hope to help bridge that gap so that learning can extend beyond the classroom. And so that parents feel empowered to support learning at home and have the tools and resources they need to do it and feel comfortable reaching out and asking. So really, we're going to super, just very excited and glad that we're part of that to help build that culture within Jennings. So, and build on that more of what you've already worked on. And I know we have our program leader with Jennings is on the call today, and she keeps nodding her head because she loves working with your teachers and in your district. Um, final question that I have for you is just what does if you were to think about like if you could have what you would imagine for parent and family engagement, like what would it look like in your schools to have parent and family engagement at like the highest level maximum? What would that look like? What would that feel like? And you would be
Oh,
like,
wow.
yes, yes, we're really successful, really reaching something.
Oh, wow. That's an easy one. But it certainly would take some time and some energy
Yes.
and resources. But ideally, the same teachers following the kids throughout their trajectory. And it's not just elementary, but it's elementary, the middle school, on into the high school. We sometimes have a tendency to kind of drop off after sixth or seventh grade in terms of that engagement and that connection, and that engagement sometimes looks different when they get older. But when we establish that early and we're able to sustain that level of engagement, it goes all the way through high school. That would be ideal.
Let's make it happen.
Thank
All
you.
the smart people here are going to work together. We're all going to make it happen.
Thank you.
Work on that. Give us a great, I love lofty goals and big goals because that helps us push to do great things, All right. So I'm going to thank you so much for all that. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Catherine, who's going to share a few of the questions that we've received in the chat.
Yeah, so this one's a bit of a two-parter from our neighbors here at Del Mar Divine Bridge to Hope. Can you, both of you, kind of just describe first off how we're different from a similar program like Parents as Teachers?
Did you say both of us, Catherine, or were you?
Yeah, I'll leave it open to Colleen if you want to take this one, or if Dr. Knight you want to tackle it.
Yeah, so with Parents as Teachers, early childhood is my background. That's my foundation. It's identifying those developmental delays, if any at all, early, and ensuring that we are putting those resources in place When we talk about the family engagement as it relates to homeworks, it's establishing that connection so that both parties, families as well as the school, feel comfortable and confident to have some real conversations for the betterment of the child. And so when, parents as teachers, early childhood education, and tapping into those developmental resources that a child may need early on, as opposed to waiting. And so, I get into this dialogue often about special education. So allow me for a moment, any special educators on this call, just hear me out on this one. When we talk about developmental delays or YCDD, young child with developmental delays, parents as teachers helps parents to identify or recognize the delays. It doesn't mean that a child is supposed to automatically go into special education. And so if we can bridge that gap so that we can minimize the number of children who receive the label because they may have a developmental delay at 3 or 4, doesn't necessarily mean that they should be labeled indefinitely. And so I really try to keep that very clear when we're talking about early childhood, parents as teachers, which is an awesome resource. It's an awesome resource if a family can get the resource.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I would also just add to that. I think and I believe this is true, that parents as teachers works with like that early childhood space, those very young children on those developmental delays and milestones. And they have, parent educators that are staffed with parents as teachers, like going into the homes. But it doesn't sustain beyond 5 years old. And so homeworks that I can say for us is that, we're with Jennings, we're working through middle school. And so it can build upon what's happened at parents as teachers. So parents were given resources and tools, and then the child turns 6 or goes to kindergarten, and now they don't know what to do or how to stay connected. And so we can then come in and help the parent work with the teacher in the classroom now that the child's school aged or going to school, to continue to make sure that the families are supported and having what they need for their child and whatever their child's needs may be.
Okay, and then the next part of the question, do you guys experience struggles in ELA with the children you work with? And what does that look like if the parent or family member might be experiencing literacy gaps themselves as well?
Yeah, so we provide those resources to the family, getting the family acclimated, not just the child in the school, but an extension to the home. That Homeworks definitely helps with that in terms of interpreters and ensuring that we have those interpreters who are readily available. And so I wouldn't say it's a struggle necessarily. I would just say it's an added resource that we have to ensure that our children have. We do have some families who are new to our community, and just making certain that they have all the resources that they need to feel safe and, quite frankly, to feel welcomed within our schools.
Okay, next question from Philip. How do you get parents to recommend your in-home services outside of the outstanding work that you do for the parents you serve?
So I can jump on this one and say we have had some excellent experience where we've had new relationships with schools because a parent heard about Homeworks, whether through another parent who experienced it at their school, and they've gone to their principal or gone to their teacher and been like, I've heard about this. How can I have it at my school? And then from there, we've been able to start having conversations with potential new partners and move into new districts. So the parent voice is extremely important. And that's one of our proudest moments and that's how we know that one of the ways that we know that we're really having an impact and that what we're doing and the work that we're putting in is impactful. When the parents are saying like, yes, we want this, please bring this to our child's school.
Yeah, the parent voice is strong. It is strong. And you identify those strong voices that will help advocate for certain structures and resources within the district. And so you identify who those parents are. And sometimes they're your greatest cheerleader and you don't even realize that they're on the sidelines cheering for you. But that is, the parent voice is strong. I learned that early on my first year as a principal in St. Louis Public. I cannot do this work without families. Can't do it.
And I think we cannot do this work without families is a great way to wrap up the question session. I mean, that's why we're doing this work and why we're all here today to learn more about it. I know there were more questions in the chat, but we'll be able to review those and maybe get out a post or a blog or something like that here in the future to be able to address some more of those questions, because I could see as they were popping up that there's some really good ones that were really rich, and we'd love to dive into those and share more. So as I would be respectful of everyone's time, so as we wrap up today's Spark and Share session, again, I just want to give a huge thank you to Dr. Knight for taking her time today. It's her second interview of the day, so she is a much sought after speaker and friend. So we're very grateful for her to be able to join us today and talk more about homeworks and parent and family engagement. And then we do have something that we're going to be sharing up on a slide for you. So some call to action. I think Catherine's putting that up here. In a second. But so if you want to,
everybody see it?
Oh, does everybody see it? Oh, it's just me. Great. As long as y'all can see it, I suppose that works. So we do have, so of course I can't see it and I know it's supposed to be on it, but so if you would like to learn more, please, go to our website. There is a Linktree link that we have, that we'll be sharing with you that takes you to a bunch of different resources and ways to connect with our website, sign up for our newsletter, so you can become more familiar with and stay connected with all things homeworks. Certainly, please follow us on social media. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn so we can have further conversations. And through those links, you'll be able to access our blog, which is where we will put the recording of this conversation with Dr. Knight, and also has our prior conversation that we had with Dr. Tyler Archer, who is the principal of Nance Elementary School in SLPS. I'm so excited to be able to share those other resources with you. And then last plug I'll put in is we are also excited to have been selected for the Target Circle donations. And so if anyone shops at Target, which I think is a lot of people, you do have the opportunity to show your support for Homeworks by voting for Homeworks in Target Circle app, so that we can and from that, we will be able to get donation from Target that will continue to support this work. So easy way is for you to use those votes you have in your Target app to support Homeworks. And we have more information about that on our website and on our social media. So Catherine, did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it. And I will just also throw in a plug. I had an embarrassing amount of votes because I go to Target a lot. So you might too. So I encourage you guys to check that out.
You don't realize how much you go to Target until you start looking at that stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you everyone again for your time. Appreciate you joining us. Thank you, Dr. Knight. And we look forward to sharing information about our next Spark and Share later this fall. All right. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.